Brett Weinstein, where literally the left is eating itself. And that's where it gets crazy. It's like you're not progressive enough unless you're literally submitting to leaving your class because you're white. Like, you can't be there because you're white. They want a day of absence, meaning the professors, the white people. And then when you don't do it, you're somehow or another racist and a Nazi. I mean, the whole thing was very bizarre to watch, but not surprising, because you see it so much, so often all over the country right now. And it's almost like some new flower of ridiculous thinking and behavior has blossomed, and it's in bloom everywhere. And when people can point to it existing in other places, like in Missouri, where that woman, what was her name? Crick? Was that woman who got the
Melissa
yes.
Click,
yeah, whatever her name was.
Yeah.
When you see it in video, when you see her on video saying, "Can we get some muscle over here?"
Exactly.
Like, this is fucking insane. Like, you're telling a photographer, and by the way, a minority, an Asian man,
an Asian guy,
Asian man taking photos of a public place that you've created some safe space, but it's this weird thing where it's half of it is identity politics, but it's also wrapped up in this need to control people and control people's behavior, control their vernacular, control the way they communicate, and how much you give in to groupthink. It's weird.
It's scary. And Jonathan Haidt, who's a social psychologist over at NYU, he did a really good piece for The Atlantic in 2015 about this phenomenon, this kind of safe space trigger warning phenomenon, this idea that you must never be forced into a position where someone has an idea that opposes yours. And what he said is it basically makes people crazy. It actually makes you crazy. That the idea in psychology is that if you have a chain of thoughts leading to a bad outcome. If you're depressed, right? If you're depressive, then you have a chain of thoughts leading to a bad outcome. The way that psychologists deal with that is with cognitive behavioral therapy. They say, okay, where in this chain of thoughts are you going wrong? Are you attributing to somebody a motive they don't have? Right? Is your wife really being nasty, or is it you just attributing nasty to her, and that's why you're getting depressed, you're spinning off, right? Try to control your own chain of thoughts. What the microaggression trigger warning culture does is it actually grants value. The more you are offended, the more value you are granted. And therefore, you have actually an interest in being offended. We give you awards if you're offended.
Right.
You're treasured if you're offended, because it demonstrates that you're woke, right? The more you are offended, the more we can show that you are woke. And because you are woke, therefore, you're granted this virtue. You get to lord it over everyone else. I mean, I say in my speeches, if we could somehow identify, like, the LGBT, half black, half Hispanic, 1/4 Native American, little person, then we would finally have the person who we could go to answer all of our questions, because their identity would be unquestionable.
It'd be Yoda.
Right. If we could find Yoda, we could just get rid of democracy and discussion altogether. He could just rule from on high. He, she. I don't want to put a gender on Yoda.
Right. I don't think Yoda's gender. Does Yoda? I guess it's
Yoda's
a
a dude, right?
It's got to be a guy with deep voice. Maybe we're being rude by insisting.
I don't know.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. No one's left enough.
Yeah, it's. I don't know where the limit is. And they're so far left that they've actually made common cause with the people they hate, right? So when they talk about safe spaces, and in Missouri, you had all these black students protesting, and they actually said, we don't want white people who think like us and who want to help us in our safe spaces. We feel insulted by that. And I just thought to myself, well, the KKK agrees. Like, if you want to do safe spaces for separate races, I can find some Jim Crow racists who are totally up for that. From like 1962.
Well, there's the really bizarre statement that I've heard over and over again, that black people cannot be racist against white people because they don't have any power over white people.
Yes.
Wow. Which is just
it's inane. I mean, it's an inane statement. This idea that you have to have power in the superstructure in order for you even to be racist. I could understand the argument if they said, look, you being racist is not connected to racist action. If you don't have the capacity for action that affects people, then your personal racism is not as important as the racism of people in power. That at least is an argument.
Right.
But the idea that you can't be racist at all if you're black because black people don't have enough power. First of all, the idea that black people have no power in the United States is utterly crazy. I mean, it's utterly crazy.
Well, especially when it was going on while
Obama was president, the Attorney General was president. And I always said this about Baltimore. We kept hearing Baltimore, right, where they had the riots. They had riots, and they were saying, well, the Baltimore PD, they're cracking down on black people. Okay, the chief of police was black. The majority of the city council was black and Democrat. The entire the district attorney who was prosecuting the case was black. The majority of the police department was minority. The attorney general of the United States was black. The president of the United States was black. But the majority of the city of Baltimore is black. But apparently, it's the white guy's fault. Like, at some point, you're going to have to make your ideas actually work in concert with reality. I can't like do this with you.
Do you ever step back and look at this trend and look at what's going on in popular culture and look at what's going on with identity politics and this war between the left and the right